Yo, long time no see. Welcome back. How you been? Hope all's been well. Look, we got a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. First and foremost, Chapter 2 is right around the corner. Or already out, depending on when you're watching this. Now, Chapter 2 will include one Lancer, a new deathmatch map, 3 new limited time modes, changes to the arcade rotation, a new arcade mode, changes to Outbreak, changes to the battle rotation, amazing changes to the map training mode, a bunch of shard card additions and changes, Lancer nerfs and buffs, weapons nerfs and buffs, skin optimizations, map changes, and some general fixes and changes. Now, for the sake of this video, I will be focusing on the changes that pertain to Shard Clash only, as that's the main game mode that I play, the main game mode of the game, and what I'm going to be uploading to the channel for the upcoming videos that are coming now that console has been announced and is almost here. If that's not what you're interested in, I will leave a link in the description to the patch notes so that you can go through them yourself. But alright, now that we got all of that out the way, let's talk about this new Lancer, Dex. In my opinion, this is the coolest Lancer in the game currently, and I'd say the most broken. His first ability is Cloning Incarnation, which allows him to place down a totem and enter a state similar to Yana from R6 or Phoenix from Valorant. But unlike Yana, and just like Phoenix, he can get kills in this mode, as you can see. Though, there are drawbacks to using this ability, the first one being that you only get one use, barring card effects like Skill Replenish. Second drawback being is it costs 20 health to use the ability, and you only have 20 health while it's active, which leads to the next drawback of your max health is going to drop every time you use this ability. But there's a bit more to this. Cards like HUD Remix might be able to give you more health in that mode than what you're supposed to have. I don't know if they're going to allow it, but it's just something to think about. And for this ability's most important drawback, if the totem gets destroyed, Dex can no longer return to it or restore his lost health. So he'll be stuck with 20, I believe. I don't believe it goes back up to 130. That wouldn't make any sense. And since it's max health that you lose, you can't heal it. But like I said earlier, HUD Remix might allow you to change your health by swapping your health with either a teammate or opponent. Now, his next ability is Mimic Trap, which I'm sure you can guess is a trap. This trap is identical to your totem and will slow and damage enemies whenever it is stepped on or destroyed. And you'll get 2 of these. There's nothing really too special about this one. It's another trap we added to the game. But his last ability is easily the best in his kit. His last ability is Shield Scales. Jesus Christ. This allows you to equip a shield that blocks 1 instance of damage up to a max of 50. So if a Kismet was to throw a grenade at your feet and you pop this shield, you'd only take 50 damage. Now this ability has the potential to absolutely turn this character from S tier to S plus tier immediately if they allow him to equip his shield and use the totem at the same time. Dex would go from being 1 shot to the body in his clone form to a forced 2 shot to the body and 1 to the head, which could make his dueling against other Lancers much stronger, since you now have a much higher chance of getting a kill because you can block that first bullet to the body. Now, if you get headshot, you get headshot. You're going to take 70 damage, you're going to send it right back to your totem. But like I said, this one thing that if they allow, which I'm sure they will, because why wouldn't you, will make Dex a must pick on every map. The great thing about the shield though is, as I'm sure you can guess, it can't be stacked, and it'll also go away after a few seconds. And from what it seems like from the video I showed you, there will be a sound cue that the enemy will be able to hear whenever you activate the ability. Now, if there's no sound cue, I would say he's in Z tier. Like, he's like giga broken at that point. But what do you think? Do you think Dex will be immediately meta, or will he be a niche pick within a few days after we play around with him a bit? Me personally, as I said, I think he will be Z tier if you can just put the shield on him, and there's no sound as well. Now, if there's a sound cue, I'd say S tier. Maybe still Z tier, and if there's no sound cue, he's Z tier plus. But that's just my opinion. Only time will tell if I'm right about this one. Next, let's talk about the Lancer and weapon changes. Starting with weapons. First up is changes to the utility pistols. They fixed an issue where the blaster would sometimes disappear if you threw it directly below your character. This was rare to happen, but it did happen to me from time to time, on Naus especially. And then sticking with the blaster, we have a buff from the way it sounds. I don't have footage of this, but they say in the patch notes that the blaster has been given a dual fuse mechanism, and if it collides with something within 2.5 seconds after its launch, it will explode at 2.5 seconds. If no collision occurs, then it will explode immediately upon collision between 2.5 seconds and 3.5 seconds. And if no collision happens at all, it will explode at 3.5 seconds. Now, if I'm going to be honest, I still don't understand that second part where it says if it collides with something between 2.5 and 3.5, it explode immediately. Does that mean the timer will be random then, or if it just happens between those times will it explode? I'm not sure, but I can tell you that once it's released, I'm gonna test it out and get a video out explaining to you how it all works and the best ways to use it. Now, the flasher also received a much needed buff this patch, with them adjusting the tail of the flasher to make it less detectable. Honestly, while this is good, I don't think this is going to be enough, since you can hear when people use utility pistol. But once again, got to see how it plays out and after my testing. And the last buff for utility pistols, which is easily the best, they have adjusted how jump throws work. So hopefully now jump throws will be much more precise, because the only current way to get a consistent jump throw is to hold right click, and then at that same exact time you jump, you release it. Hopefully there's a lot more leeway now, because a couple lineups that I have are very reliant on you doing a near perfect jump throw, and with this maybe I can get something a little bit easier and not as reliant on me releasing my middle finger at the same time as my thumb. Moving on from the utility pistols, we have a buff to the cold shoulder. They buffed its body damage at 0 to 20 meters from 23 to 26, and its damage from 20 to 60 meters from 20 to 22. Honestly, nobody ever runs the regular pistols in this game, and if they do, it's usually the cure-all, since that thing is insanely broken with the shotgun hipfire, especially if they have Dragon's Breath as well. That's where you usually see this thing ran the most. But other than that, nobody uses the Deagle. Nobody uses the cold shoulder. This buff isn't going to make them use the cold shoulder. And then lastly, for weapon changes, they optimized and upgraded the visual effects and sound effects of the fan melee, and they also fixed some visual performance issues with certain weapon skins. Now, they don't say which skins, but I'm 99% sure this is for the plasma weapon set, but I could be wrong. Moving on to the Lancer changes. We have some buffs and some nerfs for Nitro. First buff is they added an alert when Nitro gets attacked when controlling Chug Chug. Not much here to say. This is a good thing. Probably not going to help anything unless you get naded, but it's a good thing. The next buff is that you can now dismantle individual segments of her wall. This is a great change because you no longer have to waste time shooting parts of your wall to remove it for certain angles that you wanted to set up. And for the last change of Nitro, finally a nerf, they adjusted the hitbox of her turrets, making it easier to hit. No longer do you have to shoot the turret itself to destroy it, I hope. I'm sure you'll be able to shoot the base and destroy it. Sadly, there was no Tetris stacking nerfs, so there's still going to be people playing Tetris and Spawn on my team in my rank games. Unfortunate for me. The next Lancer up that got hit pretty hard this patch is Spider. They hit both his portals and his TP grenade. Starting with his portals, they changed his placement range from 6 meters to 2 meters in front of him. Okay. The portal can no longer be placed in locations where standing is not possible. It's a good thing. The portal's health got reduced to 175. Another good thing. And the one that matters the most, after a friendly player uses a portal, other friendly players will now be unable to use it for 8 seconds. Now, those other ones, while they were good, don't really matter all too much. But the fourth one, my God. Now, it's not specified if this affects Spider himself or not, since Spider doesn't have to interact with his portals like everybody else does. But if it does, man, Spider mains are in some serious trouble. And this is because Spider's TP grenade now has a 1-second delay before it starts to pull people in. And they added an indicator to it as well, so it's also easier to know if you're about to get sucked away. Gone are the days of pulling in full teams for a one-shot ace with your knife. Spider is now trash tier for me, especially if somebody uses his portal before him and he also can't use it. Now, if he can still use his portal along with one other person, Spider is still a good Lancer. But if not, oh my God, this character is cooked. I don't think there's a comeback from this besides him getting his either portals reverted or his nades reverted. Now, following the Spider nerfs, we finally got some Pathogen and Hollowpoint nerfs. But it's not what we needed. For Pathogen, they've increased the size of her poison trap, making it easier to detect. The size of her poison trap is not the problem. The problem with Pathogen's trap is it makes no sound and it auto-activates. Let's look at somebody like Jaguar. Jaguar has an auto-activating trap, but it also makes a sound. Look at Chum. His doesn't make any sound, but it has a giant red laser that comes out of it. Pathogen doesn't have that. That doesn't make any sense. Either make it to where it doesn't auto-activate or make it have a sound like everybody else's. This size increase is not going to do much unless they make it the size of what Poison Traps was. As for Hollowpoint, her sniper will no longer highlight enemies in her field of view, and her smoke walls have had their cooldown time increase, making it impossible to toss them out back to back for free map control and smoke clear. Now, this Hollowpoint change is good, but the main problem Hollowpoint had, because her detection was really bad if you were running Misty Sights, because it made Hollowpoint the most overpowered character along with Chum and Sonar. It went Hollowpoint, Chum, Sonar in that order for whenever Misty Sight was played. And it made attacking Misty Sights impossible if you saw they had a Hollowpoint. But now that that's gone, Misty Sights are better. Like I said, her smoke walls being increased for cooldown, so you can't toss them out back to back and re-clear smokes whenever you get smoked off and they re-smoke you. Great change. However, people that are not as good at the game are still going to complain about Hollowpoint being one-shot, especially console players. I can already see it now. They're going to complain about this because she just has too many shots. We need to make Hollowpoint a risk versus reward character. My suggestion is you get 2 shots, one at the start of the round, like whenever you spawn in, and one that comes back over time. And if you kill somebody, then you'll get a shot back. And you can only have a max of 2 at one time. So if you already have max 2, you get a kill, you get 1 back, you still have 2 shots. That's the best way to balance this character, because she legs somebody, you know she only has 1 more shot. And if it was at the start of the round, you know she doesn't have a shot for, say, maybe 20, 45 seconds after the barriers drop. That's the best way to go about Hollowpoint in terms of nerfs now, in my opinion. Moving on, Jaguar also received some changes this patch, with him gaining an extra trap, but his trap hitbox has also been adjusted to make it easier to destroy. No complaints here. Jaguar got another trap, made it easier to destroy, whatever. Following in Jaguar's footsteps, however, Chum also got changes to his trap hitbox, making them easier to destroy, but they also buffed Chomper's attack speed. He used to bite once every 2 seconds, but that has now been brought up to 1 bite per second. Now, here's one that I bet nobody could have guessed would have happened this patch. Corona has received a second buff. Corona's dash has now been increased from 5 meters to 6 meters, and while he's dashing, he will now be immune to most debuffs. This is insane. First, they changed his flash range. Now they're making him immune to most debuffs, which they don't say what debuffs. And they gave him an extra meter on top of that to his dash. But that's not it. They also buffed his molly. First, the damage reduction and movement speed increase effects will now last for 1.5 seconds after leaving the area of effect. And the damage reduction effect has been increased from 20 to 25%. And they also increased its DPS by changing its tick rate from once every 0.2 seconds to once every 0.1 second. I don't know what they put in the water at Bad Guitar Studios, but be prepared to get sunglasses whenever you can pick it as your shard card, because Corona is gonna become a problem. And last but not least, we have some fixes for Broker, Axon, and Zephyr. For Broker, his rockets can now be launched normally while dashing. I don't really know what that means. I don't play Broker, so I've never experienced this problem. For Axon, the feel of firing and throwing his sticky bombs has been optimized. So now, if the fire button is pressed during the throw, Axon will fire immediately after completing the throw. And they fixed an issue where if you use the knife dash and slide at the same time, it would extend the slide distance. Now this I do know of because I play quite a bit of Axon. And I'm kind of sad they got rid of it, but I understand why. And for Zephyr, they fixed an issue where under certain special circumstances, the weapon switch time was abnormal when exiting invisibility state. I don't really know what that means because I don't play Zephyr. But any Zephyr mains, let me know if this is a good or a bad thing, if there was some tech. And then last but not least, they optimized the display effects of Kismet's cat skin. And they also optimized the animation performance of Axon's sticky fingers for his baseball skin, the animation of punching without weapons for Corona's frog skin, and they fixed some visual issues for several of Chum's skins while in first person perspective. But I also play a bunch of Chum and haven't noticed this on the skin that I run. Now, I know that was a lot, but we're finally done with Lancer and gun changes. So now we have a lot more to go through. Map changes, starting with Igdrasil, or however you say this map. They have moved the attacking side B barrier up to the door. This is awesome because now you can effectively gain space B main a lot quicker and easier than before without having to have help from mid. You can now do it all from B main. Moving over to Naus, they increased the size of the entrance to B site from B short. This is great because there is now a reliable way to smoke off this site from Garden. And in that same vein, they blocked off this angle in back B, which both helps and hurts defenders and attackers. It helps in the sense that you can no longer get held on that angle and walk in the Garden if attacking, or if you're defending, you can walk back in the site without somebody from Garden seeing you, unless they are in the middle of B site. And obviously it hurts since you can no longer hold these angles against your opponent. Another change they did to B was to block off this angle above the stairs, clearing up some of the angles you have to clear when attacking from Sacristy or retaking. Next, we have a similar change over at A short where they added another box to cut off the angle either side could hold, and A short to cut off rotates or attacks. And lastly, this is arguably the best change in the entire patch. They made mid attackable finally. And a couple of you might not know what I mean, so here's a little explanation. On current Naus, mid is unplayable. Not to mention that both B main and A main also suck. For B main, the barrier is here, whereas the barrier is now here. More room to attack. For A is pretty much the only place that's attackable on this map off rip. Because from here, you can throw a smoke, which I have a burner right now, don't worry about it. But if this was a smoke, it would land here and smoke that off, right? Or if you wanted to take short, you could throw that smoke and then immediately throw a burner here, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. My lineup's not terrible. And land something like here, right? But it's supposed to land around here. I'd mess it up somehow. I don't know. But A is pretty much the only attackable site. Mid and B are untouchable. I don't know why I wasn't using Ghost before, but now I am. The main reason why B is untouchable is because you have to, for one, the barrier's here. It's now going to be here. But since it's here, you have to then run all the way down here. And by the time you get to here, they're already posted up here if they want to hold lower B. For mid, if they want to hold mid, right, there's usually a guy that plays here, like in this area, where whatever you call this, short, plays in this area, and then there's a guy top mid. The guy top mid will sit here with 15 burners at his feet and do this. And you just can't push through this. It's just not possible. And if they're running broker, because I'm on broker, if they're running broker, they could also do this off rip. Toss mines there. You got a guy here sitting with burners, just shooting them every time off cooldown. And then you can't push mid. If you smoke it, well, you smoke yourself off for one. You have these mines, and this guy doesn't care about your smoke. He's just going to throw another burner, which is going to end up clearing it and denying you once again. And if this guy runs out of burners, well, don't worry, because broker also has burners or frags, doesn't matter. And he's just doing this, and they can just alternate it. And if they both run out, he can just pull this out and shoot that there. And there's no way to push mid if broker exists and there's somebody top mid with burners. Broker doesn't even have to get burners. He can run blasters, which is arguably even worse than burners. Because this guy, top mid, throws a burner. This guy comes here, and then once the burner's about to go away, throws a nade. It blows up. Throws another nade. It blows up. Burner comes in. The mines are still here, right? Obviously, they're going to despawn after some time, but the mines are still there, and he still has his rocket launcher. This is making Naus unplayable right now. Hopefully that explanation shed some light on why that map is very hard to attack and how this change is going to drastically change how this map is going to be played now. But moving on to the next map, Dongtian, I don't know how you would say it. They have increased the size of A main and added a box for cover from sight. Pretty good change here. Definitely helps stop the amount of stall you could do at A main with smokes and mollies from behind the rotating wall. A site also received a small change where they made the backside double box into a single box. To be honest, I don't know if this is good or not, because if you can see over the walls without a Nitro wall boost, a site might be cooked. Hell, even then, it still might be cooked with the Nitro wall boost. But the main reason for this change, I believe, was because of how strong playing that backside double box was for attackers once you got bombed down, since the defenders needed to swing out so far to be able to clear you out. And if he was just holding a crossfire, they were going to lose that 9 times out of 10. Now, since it's only a single box, they can just nade over the box and clear you out or clear the angle without having to spend multiple resources trying to fight that. Moving over to mid, they have now added a step-up box to gray, so you no longer have to vault over if you want to fight screens. You will still need to vault if you want to fight short, I believe, but for screens, you'll be able to fight this by just walking up the ledge. They also adjusted the attack side barriers in mid to make it be less restrictive, just like Naus B and Igdrasil B. Now you'll be able to fight for mid a little bit quicker than what you were. And over at B site, we got a bit of a tune-up with them shifting some box around in main and adding a step-up box at yellow so you can fight back site, I believe. And they also got rid of the sliding doors at B short for a singular hack door, or an auto door, I believe they call them. So overall, B is a lot easier to not only attack, but defend as well. Easier to attack for being that you have more cover at main, but easier to defend since you now no longer have to worry about the sliding doors. An example being, if you're somebody like me who plays a lot of chum, you can go into short at the start of the round, place a fish, leave short, close the door. Short is locked down until they come clear that fish and take mid control from you. But since you don't have to have anybody short, you can double up screens and fight from screens. Overall, with these map changes, they want Dongtian to have more mid presence just like Naus, and not just be a sigil pressing simulator in mid where you flip the sights and then you go to either one you want to go to. Mid's going to have a lot more strength this update. Moving over to Black Market, in mid, they increased the size of this building so that mid could be more easily smoked off, for one, and two, so that there's no longer this insane angle from mid to bridge and vice versa, stopping certain plays that you wanted to do, and obviously preventing certain plays from what other people wanted to do if you were on said angle in that situation. Over on A site, they removed the railing from stairs, allowing easier entry into site and main, while simultaneously getting rid of the nitro wall peaks that you can do. One of them being the one between the window and the top, and the pixel peak that you could have over on the generator. And last but not least, for Black Market, they moved the door from mid closer to the defender side, making purple a little bit less of a threat to defenders retaking A. The next map on the list is Akhet. Starting over at B site, they removed the half wall peak into main and increased the wall height. Another change they did to B was to change the path size from defender spawn and get rid of the double box, making smoking the right side of B site less of a hassle, and overall making this site easier to attack, since now you don't need two smokes or one smoke heaven and fight right side and site. Now you can smoke right side site, smoke heaven, and focus getting the guy that is playing site. Now over at A site, the height of this structure in front of A main door has been increased, getting rid of the nitro wall angle that made pushing this site a little difficult because they could see your feet before you could see any part of them. In attacker side A main, this barrier has also been pushed up a little to allow attackers to fight A main earlier than what they were previously able to. And just like in A main, the attacker mid barrier has also been pushed up to allow them to fight mid earlier than what they were able to, while also on defender side mid pulling the barrier back so that they can't immediately hold off mid by jumping on these boxes. And last but not least, our last map change. On Tundra A site, they have increased the amount of cover available. This was very much needed, as trying to attack A from A doors and apps was a complete nightmare with the amount of angles defenders had to take fights. But now, Spikes has been blocked off, apps has cover from mid, and A door has cover from site to fight mid. This is an amazing change and was very much needed for my mental every time I get this map, and we can't take mid. Moving on from map changes, we now have what they call general changes. The disappearance time of enemy icons from the minimap has been adjusted from 2 seconds to 8 seconds. Great change, to be honest, as info is key in a game like this. They also added a new option for uninterrupted sprinting in the sprint related settings. When this option is enabled, other actions will not interrupt the sprint. Another awesome change that will speed up site setups. They also fixed an issue where sprinting would interrupt ADS when using the toggle ADS option. And they also optimized the exit logic for toggle sprints, so that quickly changing direction will no longer cause the sprint to end. I'm so glad they added this, as this will finally bridge the gap between auto and toggle sprint. If you didn't know, the main reason that I found from asking different people why they use auto sprint is because on toggle sprint, whenever you try to change direction, it stops the sprint. On auto sprint, that doesn't happen. And me personally, this didn't really bother me, but I can see how it bothers other people. And now they may go back to toggle sprint since this no longer happens. And they also fixed the functionality of the settings hide non-competitive skin components from enemies and hide non-competitive skin components from allies in the basic settings. So now I'm sure what this means is when you hide skin components from enemies, it will now hide things like Kismet's new skin and her tails. They also made it to where the custom room feature has been adjusted to be available for players after reaching account level 5. I don't know why it can't just be level 1, just be unlocked immediately, but whatever. They also fixed an issue where changing player names during a membership period would not trigger the proper cooldown. Very weird one. They also simplified the layout of lobby information, so now the new layout of the lobby looks so much cleaner. I'll throw a picture of it up right now. And lastly, they merged Lancer skin keys and weapon skin keys into one type of skin key. No skin keys will be lost, and all currently held skin keys will be merged together automatically. Next up, another amazing change added to the game is for map training. First up, they added a new lineup panel feature that allows players to edit location names and descriptions which also supports quick teleportation to these specific locations. They also added a new feature to set bots in place with a limit of 5 bots. And they added a new feature to relaunch the last projectile fired, change how projectile perspective tracking works by adding a small window, and a new feature has also been added to show the projectile landing point in advance. The target display method has also been updated for more precise targeting. Another thing they added was a key binding option to enable disable lineups, allowing for custom key settings, and fixed an issue where lineup heights vary between standing and crouching. I never really noticed that last one, but I'm glad it got fixed. And last, but certainly not least, we have the shard card changes. Now remember, I'm only focused on the shard class cards, so if you want the other changes, I have the patch notes linked in the description. Alright, first big change is that you no longer have to unlock shard cards. Absolute goated change and will definitely help console players learn the game quicker, as they don't have to worry about unlocking cards slowly but surely. As for the cards themselves, they have buffed Let Them Hear You by making it easier to reach maximum effectiveness. Painful Motivation's movement speed bonus has been increased from 15% to 40%. Bullet Upgrade has had the detonation time of the mini grenades from the blaster reduced from 2.5 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Infernal Hounds have had their issue where flames would still appear after they got destroyed fixed, and an issue where flames could go through walls and burn players at a certain location also fixed. Hold the Pass on Black Market now only affects the side that plays the card instead of both. Reaper Sight's single hit damage has been reduced from 40 to 25. TikTok has had the time for the target sight to close increased from 60 to 75 seconds. Nerfed A sight and nerfed B sight have both had their shard points reduced from 3 to 2. Itchy Triggers no longer affect skills and melee weapons. Lifesaver now has you resurrected 30% health. And Bad Knees has had its height detection mechanism optimized. Now, out of all these changes, Bullet Upgrade and Lifesaver are definitely the most important changes by far, especially Lifesaver, since you no longer have this card that is a must ban in most situations. You can actually let this card be now since they don't come back full HP. Alright, that was the buffs and nerfs. Now we're going to talk about cards that got removed from Shard Clash. I would add the cards that got added as well, but we've already pushed into 30 minutes on this video alone. So I'm just going to make a separate video for what got added. For the cards that got removed, we have Kill Streak Bonus, Weapon or Life, Shotgun Charge, Two-Way Portals, Smoke Shields, High Ground, Informant, Skill Treasures, Bullet Trade, Toxic Traps, Misty A Sight, Misty B Sight, Portal Malfunction, Efficient Conversion, Drought, Acrophobia, Fanning Flash, Peace Treaty, Airborne Justice, Lingering Smoke, Alert, Stand Up Straight, Mini Traps, and Healing Sight A and B. That's all I got for you. If you enjoyed the video, you like the breakdown, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.